Welcome back to the Transform Your Mind to Transform Your Life, the podcast. You're listening to Author's Corner, where we highlight and showcase our local authors. Today, I'm speaking to Rick Patterson, author of Shame Unmasked, Disarming the Hidden Driver Behind Our Destructive Decisions. And today, Rick and I are going to be talking about systemic racial bias, explaining it in black and white terms. Welcome, Rick.
Well, thank you for having me. Glad to be here.
You're very welcome. All right. So let me give you guys a brief introduction. Rick Patterson drew on his diverse experiences in writing this book. He's an engineer who is employed in corporate America, earned master's and doctoral degrees in ministry, and served as an ordained pastor. After he and his wife adopted a sibling group of 4 African American children, he realized the pervasive effect of shame across religious, professional, racial, gender, and generational lines. Rick currently works in the paper industry and speaks and writes about how people can recognize and disarm shame to regain control of their lives. So, today we are going to be talking about the shame of systemic bias. So, as we get started, my first question to you, Rick, is how has your experience with systemic racial bias changed since you became adoptive parents of 4 African American children?
I had a lightning rod experience personally when one of my daughters, my eldest daughter, called me over when she was in elementary school. I was walking through the house and she called me over. Rick, 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 she said, like she won a prize, Rick, 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 Rick. So she called me over. Okay. And she announced, again, as if she won a prize, she said, I'm the ugly one.
Oh, wow.
Now here's how I know what systemic means in the systemic racial bias is as soon as she said that, I knew why she was saying that. And I thought to myself, I hate the fact I never thought, you know what I'm saying? I hate the fact there's this unspoken thing.
Yeah.
It's unspoken. And I'm like, I hate the fact that I know what she's about to tell me.
Yeah.
It's grotesque.
It is.
And I try to be a good person. I try not to assume. I said, what do you mean? And she said, compared to my sisters. Now her sisters, they're all from the same mom, and they're all the parents biologically are black, but her sisters have more white features. The skin is lighter, the lips are thin. And she was very articulate. She says, my hair is kinkier, my nose is wider, my lips are fatter, and my skin is darker. And she listed all the attributes about herself that make her uniquely black, which is precisely what I knew. Now, she was in 3rd grade or something, how does
I'm amazed that she thought she won a prize because I want to interrupt your story and I'm getting chills, but I'm also an adoptive parent. I adopted 3 children from the foster care system, and I was a foster mom. And the last foster child I had, she was a little pudgy and a little short. And she came home from the bus one day and said, people said she was fat and ugly. So I'm amazed that your daughter thought that it was a good thing. So keep going with the story.
I gotta be careful. I don't know that she did think it's a good thing. She was announcing it to me as if it was information I needed to have that she was excited about. I think that's the thing about shame is oftentimes we have to project a different reality than we believe in our hearts,
Yeah.
you know? And
This is deep. Yeah, we're starting off deep right away.
I'm
That's
sorry.
pretty good. It was pretty good because I was just listening. I love how God always, it's amazing what he does. I mean, I literally read a book or see something before I come in on a conversation that just bows me. 2 days ago, I was listening to Muhammad Ali talk on an old clip about why everything black is bad and everything white is good. And he went on and on and on. So I understand what you're saying, that when she said you already knew that she thinks that, because yeah, this is deep. So keep going.
Well, a couple things you bring up, a couple tangents here, and I'm sorry about that. But one of the things you also have to deal with in all this is whenever you have white people adopting black children, we don't realize it, but at the time it continues to foster an image that black people need white people's help.
Yeah.
And I know all of my kids, for example, I don't know any one of them have ever dated a black person.
Mm.
You know,
And your white kids. Right.
no, my black kids have never dated a black person.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. And
Wow.
yeah, so um, you know, but one of the things that happened in that moment, and you can imagine what a type A white man, wants to do in that moment is he wants to fix it,
Yeah.
right? And you can't fix systemic racial bias. You can't fi and so, I wanted to be I what somebody wants to do is they wanna say, "No, no, 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 you're not the other one, you're beautiful." Well, she's beautiful, but the thing is, that adds another level of shame to it because that means not only are you the ugly one, but you're dumb.
Wow.
You you don't know what you're mistaken.
Yeah.
Because that's what I want to do. If it comes from good motives, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but instead, I need to help acknowledge, "Honey, I know that's the world you live in, and I know it is." And so how can we join empathetically without messaging the truth of what she believes? Does that make sense? How
Wow.
do
I would have gone a different route because you mentioned in your bio that you're a pastor. What happened if you said, listen, we're all created in the image of God and you're beautiful? How would that affect it? Because again, I mean, I know it's systemic bias in the form that it tries to hold us down, but I don't know the psychology behind it. So what would that do? Because since we're talking psychology here.
No, it's very tricky, and in fact, it is what I did do, and in fact, from that day forward, I changed her name. I began to call her not by her name, but by the name Beautiful, and she's since tattooed it on her arm. She's tattooed the word beautiful on her arm, okay?
Mhm, mhm.
If you look at how she still functions in the world today, just because you write something on your arm, it can't change, the trauma in your soul of having lived systemically in a world that believes you're the ugly one.
Yeah.
And I don't want it is very now again, I'm happy and I do. She's beautiful. She's a physically beautiful lady now. She's
You don't have to convince me. I believe black is beautiful. And I've always embraced my blackness. I have just the other day I was out with one of my white friends and she touched my skin and she says, "Oh, you just have so beautiful black skin." And maybe somebody else might have been offended by it, but I agree. I have beautiful black skin. So it didn't affect me. But I do know that we are colorized, like what you said. When you're dark, you feel you're the ugly one. And when you have like the light complexion and like they called them yeah. Anyway, so it is systemic that they think that way. And the men think that way. They always go after the nicely colored girls and the dark skinned ones are left behind. But wow, it's great to hear it from a white person, like you're saying. We're explaining it in black and white terms. So how does a white man look at this systemic bias that black is not beautiful?
part of what we have to do is realize that the word bias and the word prejudice have been demonized. And I have biases. I prefer Bud Light. Okay. I have a bias about what truck I drive. I have a bias about what lawnmower I use. You know what I'm saying? We have inherent biases. And sometimes those biases, and the fear that we have is as though those biases say something bad about us. So what you hear in the white community a lot is this phrase. If I say yes, systemic racial bias is real. They say this. Are you calling me a racist?
Mm,
No. And I'm like, no, put them down, put them down. It's okay. Put them down, put them down. It's okay because things like bias, things we the word prejudice, we prejudge things because for our own instinctual safety, we prejudge a traffic intersection. We prejudge human beings. We prejudge a dog we're walking up to on this. You know what I'm saying? Is that dog
right.
mean or is it? We do
Mhm.
this for our
Right.
own instinctual safety. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's always helpful, but it's
Yeah.
totally normal. And so I think one of the things we have to begin to do is renormalize the words bias and prejudice because they're beginning to own us
Yeah.
and and
And you
under,
know that this systemic bias is very predominant in the workplace because people don't even realize it. Like you said, your daughter came to you. This is a deep story. Your daughter came to say to you and says, "I'm the ugly one," and you immediately know that she's saying that because she's black. If your white daughter had said that to you, you would have been confused. I don't know if you have white daughters, but if your white daughter had said that to you, you would have been confused. You would have said, "Well, you're blonde, you got blue eyes. What are you talking about?" Right? Because that's society's norm of beautiful. But I've heard so many stories in the corporate world where people don't even know that they have a racial systemic bias because it's become the normal thing. And that's basically what you're seeing right now.
correct.
Yes.
And,
Right.
and the challenge is that
Every day, businesses, churches, dispensaries across America face threats that put people and property at risk. When seconds count, who will you call? Alpha Security Bureau delivers licensed, insured security guards fast, from fire watch and armed patrols to active shooter readiness and cannabis compliance. Our teams protect what matters most in all 50 states. Clients save up to 40% compared to major competitors without sacrificing safety. Need coverage now? We can deploy within 24 to 72 hours in major markets. And with our affiliate program, you can earn up to $700 for every referral. Protect your business, protect your community. Call Alpha Security Bureau today at 817-383-9098 or visit us on the web at alphasecuritybureau.com. That website again is ALPHASECURITYBUREAU.com. Protecting what matters most.
we can't be open to the idea that we have it either because we think that makes us the Antichrist. You know what I'm saying? If they could,
That makes us shameful, right?
makes us shameful. And shame says we have to denounce
Right.
that these things reside in us. I am the parent of 4 black kids, and I have bias. I have prejudice. I prejudge people based on how they look. I do that because I'm a human being,
Mhm.
okay?
Mhm.
The danger is in not realizing or understanding that we're doing it.
Right.
That's the danger.
Yeah. Well,
And
that's
so
why we attach systemic because they're not aware of it. They're not aware of it. I'm telling you that, we're just touched in one idea that, black is bad and white is good. But there are so many other things. Intelligence. People think that, if you're black, you're stupid. And I glad when you said, you can't tell her, no, you've got it wrong, because then you're thinking that you're dumb, right? Yes, there's so many things that you've got to walk over with eggshells, and then anyway. So this is a good conversation to have. So because we're touching on it, for the listeners, how do you writing your book or wherever you're teaching, how to know that you've got this bias and how to deal with it?
yeah, what I do actually, what I do, I've done a little training on this in corporate America, ironically, for predominantly white people. And I point out the fact that, for example, usually in corporate America, what people will do is they'll bring in a black woman to teach white men about bias and prejudice. And I get why they're doing that, but I can tell you what you know what happens to white men when a black woman walks in to tell them about bias and prejudice? They do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's the systemic bias that she can't teach me anything. I'm above her. Right.
Well, but the shame, that may be
Okay.
part of it. But the shame says, you're about to call me bad. That's what's gonna, and I'm gonna defend myself. You're about to tell me I'm a racist. Here comes another black woman to tell me I'm a racist. So I'm not listening. That's all I'm gonna hear. That's all I'm gonna hear.
Yeah.
I remember there was this, and I showed this picture of a black girl holding a sign during Black Lives Matter movement. Okay. And by the way, this is how I know I got a problem, because Black Lives Matter, that idea kind of ticked me off. I was ticked off. And why was I ticked off? Because are you saying,
White lives matter too. I get it. Yes.
you know, because liberal science says we never said that.
Right.
That's what you heard us say. And that's what I try and tell white people. We are hearing them. What we're hearing them saying is not what they're saying.
No.
But here's what's fascinating.
They should have had they should have had two on the other. Black Lives Matter too. They should have just stopped at the Black Lives Matter, because why we have to say Black Lives Matter is because the police didn't think that our lives matter, right? So we have to say it. Well, we're not telling them that white lives doesn't matter, but they should have added the word "two" to it. Yes.
But no, I'm not sure they have to. Black lives do matter. The issue is it hurts my feelings. Now, a white man, big, strong, corporate white guy, he can never tell you you hurt his feelings. What he'll tell you is, you just ticked me off. Okay. That's macho. Ticked me off is macho for you hurt my feelings. Okay. You called me, you're telling me I don't matter. And the thing is, what I tell people is, well, for whatever reason, if these words come out of my mouth and say, that's not what anybody said,
Right.
they can hear me say that. They won't hear you say it.
Mhm.
And I say, folks, the fact that you're listening to me right now is because you have bias. You are biased toward me. You're willing to listen to me because of how I look.
Mhm.
So I have an audience with you. You're open to my ideas because of how I look.
Mhm.
That's real.
True. True.
It's
True.
real.
Okay. All right. So let's move on to DEI, which was a hot topic in the news. It's simmered down a little bit now. But how do white men feel about DEI?
Well, DEI is, for me, what I've seen, is very much related to the idea of Black Lives Matter. And the idea here is that um, your it's biased against white people, right? And so we're not even able to enter in the conversation because we think it's, and if you listen to these words, the words sound very third grade. It's not fair. This isn't fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair. What's the first thing you were taught when you were a little bitty kid? Life's not fair,
Yeah,
right?
nobody gets that lesson though.
No, nobody gets it.
Nobody gets it. They
Triggers
always
are,
complain that it's not fair. But I mean, you just got to expand your mind. Without DEI, the black people don't get their foot in the door, so they take 1 or 2%. Why are you complaining about that? You still got the 98%. Come on.
well, here's what happens is that I personally have been turned down for jobs verbally. This is why it was said to me, because I'm not diverse. Rick, you're a great candidate, but you're not diverse. And however while I agree with you numerically, it's true. I can tell you how that makes me feel personally.
You got to understand the history.
I get it. I get it. But if we don't understand the emotional reaction of the person we're trying to talk to, we can't keep the conversation going. And so what I tell people, because that little black girl with the sign with the Black Lives Matter, okay, this is what we said. At the very bottom, it says, we just need your help. And so here's what I say to people. When I got turned down, it was painful. It was painful. For me, though, it's not as painful as the words of my daughter.
Right.
And I'm prepared to sacrifice the pain of rejection that I feel, me personally, not as a white, not a classic. The fact that I got turned down is painful. but it's not near the pain that my daughter's enduring.
Yeah. And I would add to that, um, you know, there were times when people were taking black people out of the picture by their names, by how they sound, because they didn't want a black person in their job. So then they put in this DEI thing, and they had to get, I'm not sure what the numbers are, they had to get a certain percentage of black people in their organization or diverse people in their, I'm not sure if it went to black and brown in their organization. And it helps their organization to bring in different cultures, to bring in different understanding. And you, as a white man, maybe you got turned down from that one job, but you know that there's a lot more jobs out there that you can get. That's the way I look at it. So,
Yeah, and mechanically, I understand, the realism. But
I hear
the
what
thing
you're
is,
saying.
you cannot dismiss somebody's pain
Right.
because as soon as we do, the conversation ends. I get like mathematically, I get what you're saying.
Right.
So what I have to do is I have to say there's something bigger than my own pain.
Right.
I have to be able to do that. And for me, that is, the reality of what my daughter faces.
Right.
And
Well, yeah, not very many people will be able to come from your point of view, but maybe if someone else is listening that, got turned down, the reality is that the bigger picture is yes, the black people need help. Like you said, the girl sign on the bottom there, they need help. Yes, and this is one way to give us help. And when they took it away, everyone went into an uproar because of the fact that they're not giving us help anymore, right? So, all right.
yeah, it's but without understanding the emotional triggers. And this is what I ultimately try and get to, because what I find is that the emotional triggers are on all sides of the fence. So it, when even when I say to myself, "It hurt me," then this other me says, "You don't deserve to be hurt. You're white."
Right.
Screw
Which is
you.
what I'm saying.
Wait a minute. Screw you. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
but you know what? If we aren't able to acknowledge empathy, right? If we're not able to simply empathize with the fact that this hurt somebody, we will never be in conversation with
Yeah.
them.
I hear you. Plus, you needed a job. You go for a job because you need it, and nobody needs to know. Nobody needs to say that. Look at my qualifications. Don't look at the color of my skin. But anyway, all right. So I get it. So that's a good way to introduce, the white people into the conversation. How do they feel about it? When it happens to them personally, how do they feel about it? And yeah, but listen, America's got history that they can't erase and they can't forget. So you've got to come to everything from an understanding. Just like how you understood how what your daughter was saying, you understood. You didn't need to have to be. You didn't have to. It didn't have to be spelled out to you. So we should understand the hurt that the African Americans have felt under the hands of the white man, and if there's something that they can do to help, and I love that word, I'm going to keep using it all the time, to help, then that is the thing that they should do and feel good that they're contributing. So, one of the questions I have here for you is give us the rednecks approach to bias and prejudice. So, how do they feel about bias and prejudice? Do they think it's there or they think that people are just making it up?
Well, I tell a story about a day that a guy, a bull buy. I raise beef cattle. I don't know if that's in my bio or not, but that's my hobby. Is I'm actually a farmer, right? I raise beef bulls actually. And I had a guy come up to buy his bull from me that year, and somebody had burnt down my barn. A meth user had gotten in my barn and it caught fire and burnt to the ground. Anyway, so the guy comes up to buy his bull. He could see the wreckage of my barn over my shoulder, and he looks over, and he kind of looks at me with like that "what happened" look in your eye. Okay. And and I say, "Well, at least they caught the guy." Okay. Which they did, on fire across the street. And the guy says this to me: "Was he black?" The first words out of his mouth, "Was he black?" And I had a situation in corporate America. I was going to dinner with some customers, and my male customer, his wife was there, and he was describing how his wife was a teacher in the inner city, right? And then he began to sing the song "Welcome to the Jungle"
Mm.
by Guns N' Roses, if you're familiar with that song.
I'm not familiar with the song, but I understand the concept. Right.
Yeah, so basically what's happening here is that people look at me and they prejudge me to be on their side.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They see the clothes I'm wearing. They see the way I look, the way I talk, the way I
You look like
hold
a redneck.
myself. Look, I am a lady. I am a redneck. The fact of the matter is, I am a redneck. Okay, and yeah, I got my doctoral degree. But if you ask my wife, I am redneck.
You're a
If I
redneck.
clothes at Walmart at the hardware store, not even I don't even go to Walmart. Okay, but I'm at the hardware store. But
Right.
I I think when you open your eyes, but see, the thing is I can also prejudge my redneck friends because I've also become aware of some redneck friends who are very aware of the pain being caused on minorities and minority communities and things like that. And you know what I do is before I hear their story, I prejudge them. I see my redneck friends, and before I gotta be careful. So I ask the same I do the same thing. I think to myself, "He looks like he's not on my side. I wonder if he's on my side." And so I prejudge him by the
Yeah.
fact that he too is
Yeah.
a redneck, you know?
Yeah.
And all
Yeah.
that, and anyway, so we're prejudging each other regardless of skin color based on how
Mhm.
we look.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. That is basically what's happening in America. All right. So I understand now where we're talking about shame. So, your book is called Shame Unmasked: Disarming the Hidden Driver Behind Our Destructive Decisions. So, we've talked here about systemic racial bias, we've talked about prejudice, we're talking about emotions or whatever. So, tell us, about some of the shame that you talk about in your book, Unmasked. And then you can tell us why you wrote the book and what do you want people to walk away with after reading.
Yeah, so I realized, when we went through the adoption process, I was what you would call the type A conservative male narcissist, you know what I'm saying? And what I saw though was the amount of damage I was about to do to 4 young lives if I didn't figure some stuff out. Now, if you saw me, you'd say, "He's not a bad guy. He holds down a job. He's a good," you know what I'm saying? "He's a good guy." You would go,
Pastor.
"He's a you say he's a church going man." You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
right.
Whatever that means today, okay? He's a church going man. And, which by the way is the subject of my forthcoming book is how Christianity has gone off the rails. But anyway, um, especially white evangelical Christianity. But anyway, um, and so I began to have to deal with what is motivating the behaviors that I want to change about myself. Because if the thing is that if I have an instinctual reaction that is anger, okay, that's my kind of go-to. I can go to anger management classes. I can try and take 6 breaths, but unless I try and figure out what is triggering, what is the root,
Mhm.
if I don't kill the root, I can't kill the weed. Weed's gonna keep coming back.
Yes.
And when I did my doctoral study, I did my entire thesis on the root issue here, and I believe it's the root biblically, but it's also the root scientifically, is this thing called shame. It's this
Mhm.
thing of that triggers us to have to be defensive. It has to have to be unable to apologize, to be unable to offer empathy to your enemy. You know what I'm saying? To be able to care, to even care. The challenge there is our shame because we believe we're not going to get enough. We're not going to get our own. And it's a constant ratcheting up emotion. And what I found is that until we, as the book title says, uncover or unmask this hidden driver, the destructive decisions are going to continue.
Yeah, I never thought about it that way. I mean, as a black person, I wasn't born in America. I came in and at 40. So, I mean, I wasn't here for all the hardship and all the things that African Americans went through. But I'm always confused about why white America is not more apologetic or is not more, they're talking about reparations, and I'm always confused. And now you've just, I think, given me an explanation, is that shame. I mean, doesn't allow you to apologize. Maybe you don't accept it. And maybe that's why I don't know, but that's a good that's a good explanation.
The apology
Jenny,
is,
I've heard. What?
I, I call the apology the nuclear option on shame. And I made a vow to myself. And that vow was, if I teach my kids nothing other than how to apologize, I have taught them how to be a human. Because I say mistakes are what make us human. The apology is what allows us to survive our humanity.
Yeah.
But in order to apologize, you have to acknowledge it was
You
your
did wrong.
you did
Yes.
wrong. And
Yes.
shame will not allow any of it. It's shame because we're so it's the our inability to even get along at work and to apologize and to go back and say, you know what,
Yeah.
that was on me. And so for me, if I give people one tool to practice, it's the one tool that's changed my life. And that one tool is to practice the apology.
Yeah. I like it. I like it a lot. And this could we're talking about systemic bias here, but that works in marriages too, because men don't like to apologize.
People
So,
don't like and and you've got the other kind of person too that, by the way, apologize. Oh, I'm sorry. Apologize for everything. That's no good either. But no, the apology is, in fact, and what I've found, because we're so afraid that by apologizing, we'll be exposed as being stupid, being dumb, being the wrong, being a bad person. But you know what happens when you actually apologize? People look up to you.
right.
The opposite happens.
Yeah.
When you expose you're basically becoming entirely vulnerable to another human being and saying, what I just did is not good, you know? But somehow then you become elevated in their eyes.
Yeah. It's takes a big man to
Basi
apologize. Yes. I agree totally. I agree totally. So that's amazing. All right. So yeah, I love our conversation. I love what we uncovered in our short time together. So tell our listeners where they can pick up a copy of your book, if you have a website, your social media handles.
Yep, the easiest way to find me anywhere is at rickpattersonconnects.com, rickpattersonconnects.com. That's my website, that's my handle on my YouTube, that's my handle on my Facebook, rickpattersonconnects.com, and you can basically find just about whatever I'm doing by typing those things in.
Awesome. All right. Well, I will have a summary of my conversation with Rick on the show page, which is myhelps.us. I will link out to his website and link out to his social media handles. And yeah, if this conversation inspired you at all, then definitely run out and pick up a copy of his book. Follow him on social media. He says he has a YouTube channel. Follow him on YouTube so that you can start unmasking your shame, right? And we're not saying that you're prejudiced or racial or anything like that, but everybody's got shame about something. So unmask it and learn how to apologize and accept it. And I love what he said, that if you don't understand the emotions, then you can't continue the conversation. So, we're saying continue the conversation. This is just an intro to the topic. So let's continue the conversation. So I thank you, Rick, for being on the show. I thank you guys for tuning in to this week's episode of Author's Corner. So as we wrap up, Rick, any last words?
No, I just really appreciate being on here. Really, really, I do. It's a great opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, listen. And I appreciate you. I appreciate what you've done for African American children. I can see you're an awesome dad and awesome influence in their lives. And I appreciate the work you do. and your message that you're trying to give to America, corporate America, Black and white America. So thank you for your work. Thank you for being on the show. And thank you guys for tuning in. So again, until next time, namaste.